Welcome to Audacity Works, a podcast inspired by and dedicated to the working artist, the creative entrepreneur, and generally, doing the damn thing. This exists on the premise that the world belongs to those who have the audacity to believe that their lives have value. This is for you. Welcome to Audacity Works. I am your host, Rachel Strickland, and this is episode number 179. And yeah, I'm not going to edit any of that out. Also, what's up? It's April, otherwise known as April Fools, which is terrible for people like me who take things extremely literally. It's already hard enough dealing with most people are really good at sarcasm, and it's like their form of humor, and it really is funny, but I don't get it because I always think that you're serious. But for those of you who do enjoy the pranks, have a great day. Spare a moment for the rest of us, or for the small percentage of us who are like, oh my God, wait, what's real? Are you serious? We don't know. But regardless, April has finally arrived. The live oak trees have finally crowned. They are all like they still, they dump their old leaves after the new ones have grown in. So it's also fall here in the Low Country, but I wait and I wait and I wait for the live oaks to bud out because they do it later than the other trees, and they are magnificent. I know everyone complains about the pollen. I do not care. I feel like I live in a jewel box. I was in a shit mood this morning because my feet hurt. Long story. Then I went for a walk because my feet hurt. Well, too long didn't read. I was in a great mood by the time I got home, and my feet didn't hurt anymore. Like, this place is so damn gorgeous. Okay, I just heard something in my office behind me. And I'm like, who is in here? Bern has figured out how to push the door open, and then she gets stuck inside, and then she just like pause at the door until she can get it to come open, and then slunks out, and that's what was happening behind me. Like, what the hell? It's like a little ghost. My little grumpy ghost woman. Bern is my cat, if you're new here and you're like, what are you talking about? If you love cats and you are new here, I will put a link in the show notes to a highlight reel that's all about Bern. You're welcome. Only other little update here, Practical Empathy, Tools for Empaths and Highly Sensitive People, is happening April 15th, so 2 weeks to the day that this episode airs. This is in person in Avondale, in Charleston, South Carolina, from 6:30 to 8 p.m. at the Evolve Academy of Conscious Learning. I think it is $45. I think it's $49 with the fees that the dumb website puts on it. But they're very practical tools for people who feel overwhelmed and hypersensitive to other people's emotional energy, vibes, whatever you want to call it. Turns out there's a cure for that. Not a cure, but tools that you can use, and I would be delighted to share those with you. I know it was going to be a series. We decided no, and just conglomerated it all into one workshop. So it's only this one, only on April 15th at 6:30. So check it in the show notes. There's still plenty of room. You can also just go to my Instagram bio if that's easier for you. As well, Woo Corner is going to be coming out in just a couple of days. I'm not bothering about sending it exactly on the 1st, pretty much ever. It really just depends on what's happening in my life. And if it's rushed, then I don't do it. Because I don't know if you have read the Patreon lately, but that is the motto that we're working on. We do not rush. Now, why don't we rush? Because rushing and the general busyness, I'm not talking about hard work, okay? Hard work is not the same as grind. Like you have to be able to appreciate nuance in this conversation. Anytime anyone asks you to do something that's uncomfortable, it can't be like, oh my God, that's like the patriarchy. Yes, but also no. Like we have to be able to appreciate nuance in this conversation, and grind culture is not always the same thing as hard work. Ask any athlete, ask any circus artist. However, I think we can all appreciate that a lot of us are more busy than we would like to be. And I really dislike the feeling of busyness. I don't like having too much to do. I don't even like having a lot to do. My brain works best when it's surrounded by large swaths of empty space so that I can get bored and daydream and have ideas. Otherwise, I'm just a machine. I don't want to be a machine. So I'm learning this from my friend Amber, a local somatic witch. I have not asked her if I can put her IG in the show notes, but I will. And if she says yes, then I will. And you're welcome for that. And she's been really instrumental in getting me to like learn this in my bones. Like, why are you rushing? Why are you in a hurry? Oh, the party was supposed to start 5 minutes ago. It's a party. Nobody's going to care. It will be fine. And then I chill out. So we do not rush. That is also the reason that today's episode is not the banger of an interview that I recorded a couple weeks ago with S. Hodelmoser. That is coming in the next couple of weeks. And the reason it's not out today is because guess what? I wanted to do it justice, and I didn't want to rush. And it ended up being a rush. So now. And I promise it is worth the wait. I understand that we are now 7 minutes into this podcast episode and I haven't even told you what it's about. I'm not sure if that bothers anyone or not. If it does, sorry. And here's how I got the idea for today's episode, which is just me telling a story. When I first decided to start this Patreon, like, well, I'll use it to deliver like my ideas and my thoughts about things and all of my opinions, which are plentiful, but I also want to use it to tell some stories. And like not every episode, but just sometimes to tell stories. And I have really forgotten that that's part of what I wanted to do with this lovely little experiment. So today, I'm going to tell you a story. So this is the story about how I ran from the cops in Italy. So I was 23. I was about a year after I graduated university, and I just, all I wanted to do was travel. So I just saved up some money, not enough apparently, and decided I'm going to buy a one-way ticket to Europe, travel around until I'm satisfied, and then I'll come home and I'll decide what to do with the rest of my life. What could go wrong, right? So I did, and about 3 months in, I ended up in Italy with one of my besties, Marianne, and I promptly ran out of money. Like, I had been stretching it for quite some time, but I figured busking ended up being a viable option for me. I didn't have any circus skills at the time, but I could carry a tune. Not even very well. I could just carry a tune. It didn't sound terrible, and it was enough for people to put like their little coins in my little coffee cup, which had a chicken on it. Me and Marianne had gotten lucky enough that she knew someone who lived in Florence, Italy, where we were, and he was out of town. We knew him from back in Asheville, North Carolina. And he said, yeah, you can just stay in my room. It's unoccupied in my apartment with my like 3 female, luckily, Italian roommates. So we did. We had somewhere to stay at least for that month. But money was always a deciding factor. I mean, not clearly why we were there in the first place, because that was not financially sound. And it was Totally awesome. So anyway, we were sharing our friend Joe's bedroom in his apartment with his Italian roommates and their gigantic dog named Banjo, who loved to sleep on his like dog couch, which was a human couch that just now belonged to Banjo because he took up the whole thing, like with all four legs up in the air and open, and his giant dog balls like flapping in the breeze. And also he had those big doggy lips that would like because he liked to sleep on his back upside down, so his lips would like sag up towards his, oh my god, it's the cutest thing I've ever seen. Not the balls so much, but I did take pictures of his face. Good thing I finished that sentence. So we at least had a stable and safe living situation for the moment anyway. And every day I would get up and I would walk into Florence. And into the city center was about a mile, maybe a little more. And I would take my notebook and an empty coffee cup and find some kind of, hopefully like an alleyway to sit in because I didn't have a very loud voice. And once I found a place, I would plop down and put my coffee cup, and busker's trick, you got to put a few coins in there yourself. So, you want to do that too. And I would sing and hope that people stopped by. And usually they did, and I would earn enough to buy myself like a pastry or something for lunch, and then enough to get a really cheap bottle of wine and enough to get like a few groceries, which I would then carry home, and me and Marianne would have dinner. And that was sort of like our daily life in Florence. So that's a lot of walking, and I was only in flip-flops, so sometimes I'd be like, oh my god, it's so hot, and I would just hop on the bus and ride it a little ways. I was always afraid to do this because I was literally stealing. I didn't have the money to buy a bus ticket. Or I guess I had the money, but like I needed that money for food and wine, so I didn't really have the money. And I had started to relax about it because nothing bad ever happened to me. I would just get off after a while and it would be fine. Just, use the back door. Well, I may have gotten a little too overconfident because I hopped into the bus and we had not gone one block when the police got onto the bus at the next stop and they started checking everyone's tickets. And I was like, oh, fuck. And I don't even speak enough Italian to explain myself. So I started visibly panicking, and there was this sweet old man next to me, and he could tell what was happening. He was like, oh shit, this white girl don't have any money, did not buy a ticket. And he starts like looking in his pockets and like offering me things. And for some reason, I just kept saying, mia sorella, like my sister, over and over in Italian, like thinking that they would understand, my sister has my money. Which she didn't. I was in a panic. So the door opened for some reason and I bolted. And this was in a very busy part of Florence, like very thick with tourists. The police saw me running and started running after me, yelling in Italian and blowing the whistle. And there I am, like a little urchin carrying a notebook and an empty coffee cup and a bunch of coins jangling in my pants. But I need those coins for food and wine, so I didn't buy myself a bus ticket. But I was also 23, so I was very fast. And I ran down a street that looked familiar and realized, oh, this is what me and Marianne called the Money Street, because that's where all the designer stores were, like Gucci and Prada, etc. And Gucci was right there, so I just bolted into Gucci. Luckily, no one was watching the door at the moment because they definitely would have been like, get out. There was a circular rack of leather coats that each cost more than my car at home. So I very quietly just slurped into the middle of that circular rack of coats, which smelled like butter and heaven, by the way, and just like sat there with my eyes wide, smelling more money than I would ever possess in my entire young adulthood, waiting for the cops to come and arrest me and take me to Italian jail. I'm like, how am I going to get myself out of this situation? Turns out they couldn't really be arsed to look for me very much. I mean, all I had done was run from a bus. They didn't even have proof that I hadn't bought my ticket. It was pretty obvious, though. So they didn't look for me for very long, but I sat there for quite some time and then needed to find a way to like extricate myself from the rack of coats in a way that wouldn't alarm the staff, who had somehow not seen me come in. So I did that very quietly and like tried my best to impersonate my mom, really, because like mom always seems like she belongs in really hoity-toity shops. So I just pretended to be her. I was like, yeah, well, this is nice, but it's okay, I guess. You know, just that sort of attitude. And then gave like a Southern woman smile to the clerk when she did see me and thanked her in Italian and left. And I never stole a bus ride again because that was terrifying. Like, oh no, not the consequences of my actions. I'm not prepared to face those. You know, my poor little 23-year-old heart was just a hammering for the longest time. Like I still had adrenaline coursing through my system when I got home, and I like walked into the apartment shaking, and Marianne's like, "What is the matter with you?" Was not impressed by my tale. And that may have been the moment when I started to value financial security a little bit more, which is funny because there were plenty of moments on that journey where I could have been like, you know what would have fixed this? A little bit of money. Not a lot, just some. And also, I felt so bad afterwards. Like, I stole from the city of Florence, who was nothing but generous to me. Like, let me sit in her streets and sing for my supper. And a cop never, ever bothered me, never asked me to move on. An Italian man did yell at me from a window, but to be fair, he was trying to take a nap, and I had been singing Disney songs outside of his window for 2.5 hours. So he was pretty upset with me, but that was the only time. No one else ever asked me to like move on or said I was being a nuisance. And so it wasn't even that I didn't want to go to Italian jail or whatever would have happened to me. But I was like, I can't, that's so shitty for me to steal from Florence, who has been so gracious to me. And that's the story of how I never stole another bus ride again. You know, I was thinking that this episode would be just me telling you about busking in general, which I didn't even do that much, but you don't have to do it very much to get good stories from it. Even busking in Italy could have at least parts 2 and 3. So how about this? If you want them, let me know, and I will record them. I might record them anyway, but it would be faster if you just let me know. All right, my friends, I'm looking at the time. Thank you for listening to this story from my life. And thank you for letting me sit in your ear while you fold laundry or go for a walk or pet your dog. Remember, if you're in Charleston, I hope you'll come to Practical Empathy, Tools for Empaths and Highly Sensitive People on Wednesday, April 15th at 6:30 p.m. You can check the show notes or my bio on Instagram. I am also very open and welcoming of any requests for podcast episodes. If you've given me one and I haven't delivered on it yet, it's usually because I'm researching it. So thank you in advance for your patience, but I would love to hear them. You can reach me always on Instagram at Rachel Strickland Creative or on Patreon at Rachel Strickland Creative. This podcast is powered by Patreon, so thank you to my extra amazing and wonderful friends and supporters and fellow artists on Patreon. Thank you for standing there with me. Thank you for your trust and your support, and for making things like this and people like me possible. Thank you for the coin in the coffee cup. They do make a huge difference. So until next time, my friends, either enjoy the jewel box spring if you're in it, or the knowledge that it will come back if you're not. And pay for your bus fare. Don't go back to sleep.